Hello everyone! It's been a while. I'm Masaya Matsukaze and I played Ryo Hazuki in Shenmue. When I first met him, it was at a top secret audition that I got my way into. Yu-san and a row of staff members were lined up there and we got interviewed. Not to be rude, but I didn't know who Yu Suzuki was at the time. Of course I'd been to arcades though. So Yu-san asked me for the first time, "Do you know who I am?" with his usual smile. I said, "I'm sorry, I don't." And the others with me at the audition actually started shaking. And the next person who was asked the same thing was like, "Of course, you're the Yu Suzuki, right?" And I thought, I'm blowing it. But eventually we also got into talking about Virtua Fighter. Yu-san asked me, "Do you play games at all?" And I didn't know that Yu-san had made that game, so at the time, one-on-one fighting games were popular, but those always got to me because players would jump in and I'd lose. And it'd be, "You lose" or "lose" on my screen. And I couldn't stand that. And I said I'd always get angry and be like, "Who beat me now?" And Yu-san just smiled real big and was like, "Nice." Well, really? But when I think back, I'm sure there were lots of other people that knew it and loved it much more than me. But in the end, Yu-san chose me. So instead of someone who was really into the game, Yu-san decided to select people that would get easily worked up by playing it. Most people would rather choose people that are big fans of their games, you know? But Yu-san's someone who doesn't do any of that. That's my impression of him even now. He's just really cool. A different kind of adult. It's been a long time since I first met him, but I haven't met anyone like him. No, never anyone quite like Yu-san. Also, I was in my 20s at the time, and meeting Yu-san was really, well, let's just say I caused him a lot of pain. But I learned a lot from him too. I thought, a man with passion like this that has the power to move people still exists. People like him that can come up and create ideas that no one else can. I think that's pretty amazing. There was a time I got the chance to go eat with Yu-san, and he told me that the whole world asked him the same thing. About Shenmue. Everyone's like, "Shenmue, Shenmue." And so we were in an area in Tokyo, secretly working on production for a long time. Well, for Yu-san, it's much longer if you include the project planning. He said the work we do really does make it around the world, especially since Yu-san gets invited to all sorts of events everywhere. He's been told by people from all different places, countries, and ages. At the time, we were in such a closed-off place we couldn't realize it back then. The reality of creating something for the world like that has really hit me now. So when it was decided to relaunch, I was so moved I could have cried. Yu-san mentions about how the Shenmue gamers he meets now, even after all this time, give him all kinds of comments like, "I loved it, and it changed my life. My life turned out this way because you made Shenmue." So when we were eating there together, he says that maybe we shouldn't release something that isn't perfect. I mean, that's true. It is still one of the world's firsts, something only he could do. What Shenmue is has kind of already been established. So there were times when he thought it might be better left as is, if it had to be released in some odd way. But after talking to all the fans, he says, this can't go down unreleased. He started to feel that there's no way that he could say no to all of these people. Even if it's not perfect, I'm sure everyone will understand, he says. And this means a huge range of people for Yu-san. Why Yu-san decided to do this now was because of those Shenmue players. I've been to the AM2 Summer Festival too, and everyone there is so warm and just love it. To think he was touched like that and acted on it gave me chills. So, this is really like a miracle for me too, that I could be saying this right now. More than anyone, I'm excited for this. It's like a dream, a miracle. It really feels like deja vu. But all I can say at this point is that this Shenmue being brought back now will definitely be the world's best. I hope that you'll all look forward to it and enjoy it with us together to the end. I am Kenji Toso. I mainly work in the field of animation and live action films, music videos, and commercials as a director and a producer. I will be discussing the story with Yusan, and will also be doing the storyboards for the in-game movies. I was a student when Shenmue 1 was launched. And inevitably, a fan of Yu Suzuki back then. So, it is an honor now to work with him like this. But it feels sort of strange at the same time. I remember when the Dreamcast was launched, and Shenmue 1 was one of the big titles that came out. I was playing it and talking about it with my friends. I have a lot of memories like that, ones that we all have. I came across this game right in the middle of when I was growing up. At that time, I was just another fan. I think there will be a lot of highlights for Shenmue 3. But the fact that after all these years, we will finally get to see the sequel to Shenmue 2, I think that will be the main attraction. What happens from there? What kind of characters Ryo will face? It is those things the fans have been craving that will be the real draw for Shenmue 3. I'm a person who loves stories, so that is the part that I am really looking forward to. As I work with and learn from him, I now really understand how and why he created Shenmue. When he's working on the storyboards, he acts it out. It might be self-explanatory, but he really knows you need to imagine and act it out to really get the point across. The trailer video for the Kickstarter campaign has the scene where they are jumping rocks. He suggested we recreate the scene to get a better feel for it. So, Yusan and I actually jumped and measured the distances. Seeing his devotion towards realism and how he creates movies was not only really fun, but a real experience for me. Shenmue is a big title that has special meaning for Yusan. There are also a lot of fans all over the world who can't wait any longer for this sequel. During these 15 years, Yusan had kept thinking about it, coming up with new ideas. I strongly believe this new Shenmue, here now after 15 years, will be a fascinating piece of work. Shenmue 3 is under development right now. Many of the staff members from Shenmue 1 and Shenmue 2 are also taking part, working hard with the newcomers, bringing in new ideas. I believe they can create a great game with ideas that we have never seen before. However, this will not be possible without you. So please be sure to let everyone know that Shenmue is happening. And please give us your support. Thank you very much. My name is Manabu Takimoto, and I am an architect. I've designed office buildings, personal residences, hotels, bars, restaurants, and the occasional zoo. A lot of things. My relationship with Shenmue begins with Yusan's pursuit of reality for the game. After all, even virtual worlds have buildings. And where there are buildings, there are people in them moving around, living their lives. So I became involved to put actual structures in, which made a lot of sense. Making everything as real as possible was probably the biggest thing that we needed to hit home. And that wouldn't happen with new, shiny buildings everywhere. That meant the houses had to have the right amount of dirtiness to look their age and have that lived-in feeling to them. It was not about making some nice looking. It needed that smell like real people were living there. It needed to sizzle in that way, and our number one priority was to make sure that would come across. Yes, I do appear in the game, just along for the ride, as it were. I got in there along with the production crew, and it just so happened I ended up at a construction site. In the game, I mean. There's some information you can get there. And I'm there with some unfolded blueprints like this, looking perplexed. They got me to look just how I normally do, and that was another part of that pursuit of reality. There was actually a scene with me where I get to talk to you as part of a quest. There are plenty of people out there that can go from 1 to 2 or 100 to 1,000. But from someone to start at 0 and create something from nothing, there are very few people like that. That is his greatest talent, his genius. As the architectural designer, I will be doing only one thing. That is to make realistic buildings, to bring out the real of the now. There were things we could not fully realize before, but are able to now. Now it's changed from the pursuit of reality to reality as a matter of course. So now it plays an even more important role. It has progressed to where the colors are that much more vivid, and even the minutest of details get their due. Even more smell, as it were. To get where you even think you can smell something like the foulness of a sewage ditch. I could not be happier that Yu Suzuki will finally be doing Shenmue 3. Over 10 years have passed since Shenmue was made. And now, we are here again to bring it back with new capabilities in hand, better techniques, better technology. I think it will be truly great. Let's share this thrill together. My name's Kenji Miyawaki. I think I can finally talk about this now. Initially, this project was an RPG of Akira from Virtua Fighter. The original design for Ryo came from one of the many old portraits of Akira, with him wearing jeans and a t-shirt. But looking over the design I had made with Ryo in jeans and a white t-shirt and a bag over his shoulder, we all thought it was a little too plain. Considering the time and place, we didn't want him overly loud or cool. And after giving some more thought how his character should look, we put that leather jacket on him, and there it was. With the period background in mind, even if it didn't look that cool, it was still a rather common look for people to have back then. So there was that kind of throwback feel to finish off his design. This is Ming Ming. She appears after Shenmue 2. I have a lot of myself invested in her as well. She's free-spirited and very upfront, somewhat different from the other female characters in the Shenmue and Shenmue 2, which were mostly well-behaved. She's expressive, sometimes reckless, but full of life. Plus, her story gets tied up with Ryo's. And on top of all that, she knows martial arts. She has the potential to be one of the more appealing characters. I keep hoping she'll find her way onto the game screen someday. Shenmue is the one title in my life that I have the strongest personal attachment to, and was very sorry to see it come to a premature end. Personally, I don't think I can die in peace until the next Shenmue comes out. I'm so looking forward to this sequel, for the opportunity to draw a whole lot of great new characters and share them with all of the Shenmue fans out there. I hope you'll get excited. Hello, I'm Ryuji Uchi, creator of the Shenmue theme song. What's left the biggest impression with me is the sheer amount of songs I wrote. Most games are fairly standard and have a set number of stages, needing a song for this or that scene. But in the case of Shenmue, the volume of work was so large I couldn't get my head around it. So many different ideas kept popping into my head how to fit what song to where. I just had to start somewhere and do it. I composed over 100 songs myself. And with Shenmue 1 and Shenmue 2 combined, there were over 800 songs in total. I remember just marveling at how many songs we made. When I was supposed to compose Shenhua's song, as with all the songs, Yuson started by giving me some key words. In this case, I think it was a curious-looking young girl living in the forest. After that came the concept drawings and the setting descriptions. Once her world was laid out for me, I took all that back to my booth, my production area at Sega. I put on my headphones and began composing. The song was about a strange little girl living in the forest, so already live drums and guitars were out. We were not at the stage yet where other songs were already together. So for most of the parts and the instruments, I remember being free to do whatever I felt best fit. I keep looking on the net to see what Shenmue has been up to. And people around the world on YouTube and video sites are playing the piano or violin to that music. I'm just so glad I could make those songs because there's so many people who still embrace the music like that. With this project now, it's been 14 years since Shenmue 2 came out, and the technology has advanced so far in that time. From the creator side, so many new possibilities have opened up to fully express what you want to do. If they're allowed to let loose and really show off, I think everyone can expect great things. I didn't even know what a video game was, really, just some vague idea. That being you would take some real-life thing and actually put it into the game. Well, in some limited fashion anyways. Like if I was inside a castle, I'd just have to make the inside of a castle. But Shenmue taught me that wasn't the case at all. Shenmue was the first game I worked on, and using that experience, I've been able to give feedback on scene production for dramas I'm working on. Freedom is all you need. I was at a Seiyu department store and a bookstore at the time. There, Yusan says, "Hey, Yoshimoto-san, what do you think of this?" Then he wrote Shenmue and Spirit Tree. I still remember that vividly. The first time I heard that name, yeah, gave me chills. Thought it was a great title. A kid wants to get revenge for his old man and goes in search of his father's killer. That's the heart of it, and I felt strongly that the story should not stray from that point. There were a lot of other great ideas in there, but still I felt the main character needed to be unwavering in his convictions. Yet, when you actually play the game, all that other stuff is what makes Shenmue so interesting. Ryo feels he must avenge his father, but is at the capsule toy machines playing away. I think that's the humanity coming out. Those that really want to get into it, become the character, and go straight ahead can do that. But for every gamer, there's a different way to enjoy the game. That's the really interesting aspect to it. So when I sat down to play it, I was like that. If your old man has that kind of house, he has to be a person of some character and integrity. Having grown up under a father like that, you'd probably feel rather restricted. But, without a doubt, he'd probably be very fond of him. At his dying father's last words, well, in the game he may not have reflected on it much there, but there would be a lot going on through his head about what his father did. That would get more and more imprinted on him. And as he goes out and meets all these different people, he would come to know where he came from. With the death of his father, it would be like Ryo continuing on in his father's footsteps. To make it sound cool, that is. His brain is always working. He's seeing and thinking much farther ahead of someone like me. When we are having a meeting, I often feel like that. I'm not the type to be adversarial with people. I want to make something that will make other people happy. There are probably millions of people playing games because of Yusan. If Yusan says, "Hey, this is pretty interesting," I think they'll be happy too. I don't know what gamers want, where their compass is pointed. If I make something and Yusan is happy with it, it must be good. If it isn't, it'll show on his face, and you'll know it's boring, and the players will think it's boring too. That's kind of how our relationship stands. When I first became involved with Shenmue, I'd just celebrated my 40th birthday. It was at the Sega offices with a few of us there. At that time, I didn't think I had changed at all, but I probably had changed. Now, 17 years, 15 years having passed until Shenmue 3, I've probably changed even more. I had no intention of that happening, but with each line I wrote, yeah, it changed me. I think about it, and I couldn't tell you how, but I'm excited to test it and see for myself. I'm ready to be part of it again. It's like meeting myself as I was 15 years ago. It should be a really nice opportunity. It's definitely not TV work. It's being asked to play the same person in a part you did before. Being able to do something you did 15 years earlier should be an invaluable experience. My name's Kenji Miyawaki. When I was with Sega AM2, I did the main character design for Shenmue and drew the illustrations for Shenhua and other characters. When I first came to Sega, there was some sort of non-disclosure agreement. So, I didn't hear anything about the actual game. At that time, I was working at a bookstore specializing in manga, dreaming of becoming a comic artist, when an acquaintance asked if I wanted to try drawing some art for a video game. I didn't know anything about the game then and asked him to tell me more, but all he said was, "Yeah, all I can tell you is it sounds like the game is Chinese themed." So when I actually got there, I was thrown into this place that was like the pre-game production scenario meeting, with all the Sega directors and other team leaders gathered around. And I was there because they wanted someone to put some impromptu concept designs on paper for the scenarios that they were laying out. At first I thought, yeah, this job will last about a month or two. But at one of the meetings, there was this scene where the main character is traveling in Tibet with a Tibetan girl he meets there. I was asked to draw the scene, so I did it up right there. That was actually the basis for Shenhua. Well, her name wasn't Shenhua yet. But when Yu Suzuki saw it, he really took a liking to it. I got my start when he asked me then to stay on as a designer and do the character illustrations. As many fans may already know from the internet, there's a village that was deleted from the final version of Shenmue. The villagers all wore traditional Chinese folk clothing. The set was like at a Shaolin monastery. Not really all masters, but everyone still learning martial arts. So they would all be on chin-up bars and doing other training exercises as part of their daily life. The village didn't really fit with the flow of the story, so the village got cut. Everyone, including myself, was really surprised about it. But Shenmue was created as a result of just such drastic revisions. Among the characters I drew, many of them were female. But I would have to say I'm especially fond of Shuing. Shuing was imagined as a master of both the Baiji Kwang and Piguakan fighting styles. And on top of that was this cool and beautiful figure with a commanding presence. I pretty much had that in mind from the start. By giving her almond-shaped eyes, she came out to be very proper looking. I had this clear picture in my mind of her dancing away at her forms on a moonlit night. So I made her outfit bright blue like it was reflecting the moonlight. And like that, she was from the early stages on one of the first fully formed characters. everyone. It's been a while. I'm Masaya Matsukaze, and I played Ryo Hazuki in Shenmue. I think it was the year after I did the superhero TV show, Super Sentai series. I got invited to the audition, but was told I couldn't be given any details. And besides that, I had to bring my seal, the one we use for our signatures here in Japan. And I thought, what's this all about? But it meant that anyone who couldn't sign off on this pre-audition contract was pretty much told to go home. So there in the green room were all these really famous actors. And everyone was signing and putting their seal on these contracts we were given beforehand. Then the doors burst open, and there Yusan was. Looking back at how the audition started there, that was my first real step towards Shenmue. It was a first for me, of course, but I was told afterwards about just what we accomplished. I did the Japanese voice acting and dialogue for the main character and player, Ryo Hazuki. I also did what was called the motion capture part for him as well. I'd already played in a superhero series and was an actor, so doing the movements, being filmed, and doing the lines came natural to me. But here, all of that was separated out, doing only certain parts. A motion capture actor, they said. I found out later that was actually close to being a worldwide first. So it was this learning process, performing at the forefront of this technology just coming into its own. It was really trying having to create a whole new world within that one screen. For example, the action scenes. When acting out a fight, I say this a lot, but when the camera films this way, you punch this way. So when the camera's filming this way, the fist overlaps your face, so you can't see the hit. Then, when the camera's filming this way now, you have to punch opposite where your fist overlaps again. But these contrivances fall apart here. Professional racers wear special pads that protect against spinal injury. We call them turtles. We put them on front and back so we can actually punch and kick each other for real. If we don't, it takes a lot of extra camera work afterwards, even if it does come out. It can't all be done like that. So for all the fighting, we actually do hit each other. And when you have that exaggerated flyback, we'd have a rope tied to our waists. And we were actually kicked, and with about 10 guys then yanking you back together with that real reaction. What we did was sort of like wire work in Hong Kong movies for all the action scenes. Because it was done that way, even looking at it now, I still think it looks good. But it's dangerous making real contact. They'd say for the take, okay, this is the last one, you're really gonna hit him. And we'd really give it to each other. Even now, I think why I'm still such good friends with the stunt crew is because we beat each other up all the time. Besides that, for instance, just to stand or to sit, I had to do all of those actions. For example, to stand. And to stand over this way. Then to sit from this side, and to stand over this way. Open the door with your right hand. Open the door, step out, right foot first. Open, step out, left foot first, like this. All like that. This is probably the most recognizable action for everyone, I'm sure. I wonder how many there were just for the basic movements. We took a huge amount, more than 100 or 200. Like squatting down for a kitten. Now maybe I should squat down gentler. I remember deciding how they should be filmed with everyone. When doing the motion capture, I had to practice the actions with 13 sensors attached to me. For the action sequences, I really learned Wuxi Kaimen Baiji Quan. Ryo Hazuki was supposed to do all of this without thinking, so it wasn't an option for me not to do it. If you're gonna do it, you'd better do it right. Everyone Yusan brought together were those types of people, so I became a student and practiced my heart out while I was here. So here we have Ryo's stance. Ryo Hazuki was born into a dojo, and without even realizing it, naturally learned Baiji Quan. So for the motion capture, we were actually taught by a Baiji Quan master. It's a cross between Baiji Quan's unique stance and how a regular person stands to fight. This Ryo Hazuki stance was put together with the fight choreographer. When you move into it from your normal position, you go from here walking up, but when there's action, it makes for a quick drop to get into stance. So when you finish off the last guy, it's a simple return. You push the button forward to walk and off you go. I'm Takirai, lead programmer of Shenmue. About 5 years ago, I founded an independent development company called Nalo Incorporated. Currently, most of my work is as a director and producer. One important event in 1995, when Shenmue was being developed, was the emergence of the internet with the introduction of Windows 95. There still wasn't much information out there to be had, and Shenmue faced a lot of new challenges as a game. Talking about recent games from the development perspective, a lot of research goes into graphics, but Shenmue took on so many other challenges besides just that. With all the other R&D that was needed, it ended up making more of a 50-50 split. Now, 15 years later, there's one thing that Shenmue gave birth to that is still alive and kicking. That's the idea of an open world. Launching Shenmue in 1999 with the open world design, that was big. Probably the biggest achievement of our careers. Open world games didn't exist then, so there was nothing we could use as a reference. Things like CPU management, graphic chip management, memory, read, write, it all had to be balanced out. And we had to do it on something like a trial and error basis. So, for example, I wanted to increase the processing speed. So say Shenmue is running at a speed of 33 milliseconds. And then I got it from 35 milliseconds down to 26 milliseconds. A week later, of course, there were more resources to run, so it was back up at 35 again. I had to keep doing that back and forth over and over again. Then the memory would run out. That was a big part of it, this balancing act. In Chapter 2 of Shenmue 2, there was a scene where handcuffs are used. Such a program where two people are connected together by handcuffs was something new. The program would control the motion of the two things tethered together, and thus incorporate the physics of the two people pulling against each other. We also reproduced the weather for Yokosuka for a 2-year period. I really had to wonder if that was the actual weather. Some of the forecasts were quite tricky. One day it would be clear, then rain, then snow, then clear again, then cloudy. This is how we replicated it, but I wondered to myself if people actually experienced the weather like that. But people said to me, "Wow, that's impressive." And I was so glad we were able to make it happen just like that. I really feel that it matters to do Shenmue 3 through crowdfunding. For those who have been truly waiting for this moment for the past 15 years, I think this is the best way to show how much they really want it. The biggest thing here is the QTE that Shenmue made famous. Then there was the original battle system in Shenmue. I would like to integrate those two things and make something completely new. Should the budget allow, of course, but I think it would be great to make an all-new battle QTE. Scrap the old QTE and the old battle system and making something original, something groundbreaking. I want this to be one interesting Shenmue experience.